Welcome to the Family Office, planning for the people who matter most.
Speaking of which, this is a big topic for a lot of people right now, and it's the affordability thing. But here's the conundrum. This didn't happen until recently, but inflation actually went down 2.7%. That happened after you and I talked in preparation for today. But that still doesn't change the fact, obviously, and that maybe can put some hot water on this. California, which is notoriously the highest tax state, the most expensive state for utilities, taxes, you name it, a lot, is broke. Again, facing its second or third straight year of deficit in the 20 billion plus range. It is teetering on the brink of recession. There's about 22 states right now that are actively in recession. If you look at the data, we probably have that graphic up there. But California is definitely leading the pack. Fifth largest economy in the world. It's touted. What is going on here? How is the state broke again? And how can we continue to, like you said, invest in these ideals that we're taught to do, but then we don't get back, meaning a prosperous way to buy a house, get a good job, live in a nice neighborhood, and not get taxed to death. And that's really what you're starting to see in California. It's crumbling under the load of fiscal mismanagement. I just can't see it happening any other way. Len, where are you at with this? It's pretty big to run that long a deficit.
Yeah, it really hurts me to talk about California in this way, considering the fact that I've lived here in my entire life. When you look at politically motivated policies and you have such a large population, those two don't work at scale. So what do I mean by that is I can have some politically motivated policies, but if I'm in Rhode Island, no big deal because our population isn't that big. It isn't, so large at scale that we can manage it. And one thing that Gavin Newsom talks about, as you mentioned before in the prelude to your question was, California does have the fifth largest economy. It has 40 million people. It has some of the highest income in the country. Those are all positive things. But the problem is you have a significant percentage of the population that relies on Medi-Cal. And so that's a huge expense when you look at the cost of housing. The median cost for a house is over $600,000. And so when you look at the price for education, right now per pupil expenditure, which is the amount of money it costs on average for a kid to go to a public school, is over $10,000. So when you add all of those things up, education, and then you also look at initiatives on reducing homelessness, and then you look at the fact that a large percentage of the high-end tax base is leaving to states like yours in Texas, all of these variables converge to become this perfect storm, which means that California is in a deficit. There was a lot of money that came in from the federal government during COVID. And so what happened is it increased spending for these different types of programs. And then when that money was taken back because there's no COVID anymore, the spending train and the gravy train just kept going. And now we're in this situation where we're running $17 to $18 billion deficit just here in California. And so I could point to, say it's the governor. I could point to say it's entitlement programs. I could point to say it's education. I could point to say it's homelessness as one factor, but it's the combination of all of those things. And then also people feeling like the state is supposed to be there to give them a teat to suck on, to take care of them, where, you have to understand that in order for me to have a degree of success, I've got to get away from having to rely on the system to take care of me. And that's the reason why I think California, unless somebody comes in and makes some radical changes, it's going to teeter on the brink of, like you talked about, a recession. And right now, Gavin Newsom is getting ready to term out of office. And so I hope the next governor comes in and understands a couple of things. One, we need a higher supply of housing. So the cost per unit of housing goes down. We need a lot more lower income housing. So like in the $200,000 to $300,000 range. And then when you look at interest rates, hopefully because of what's going on in the economy, interest rates start to come back down, which can increase people to buy homes. Therefore, more people come back to California. Therefore, more construction starts to happen. And then we also have to really be very clear about legislation with regard to the homeless. And if somebody doesn't have a clear multi-step plan, and also come with the idea of saying, look, I'm telling you that in order for us to fix this problem, that we're going to have to suffer a bit, because you can't have your cake and eat it too and be prosperous and be in a surplus. Those things just don't coincide. So the unfortunate reality, and I'll wrap up on this point. The unfortunate reality is this: people who don't feel the pain directly, they don't use empathy in their voting practices. So in other words, if I don't feel the impact of homelessness because I live 60 miles east of Los Angeles, I'm not really worried about homelessness because I don't really see it on a regular basis. I see it on TV, but I don't really see it. And when I say I'm not talking about me in particular. I'm just speaking of the general person who doesn't see anything from a first person perspective. And so I hope that we start to operate and understand that we've got to fix this problem. Otherwise, California is just going to get worse and worse and more economic hardships.
It's difficult to sit and realize or try to understand it. And unfortunately, the problem obviously is the legislator. I mean, it's not going to stop with Gavin Newsom, and any governor that gets in there is going to have such it's an impossible time trying to get anything done in that state. I mean, it's just, but I mean, do you really think it has to get a little bit more painful there for the voting bloc to change? Because California was once a Republican state, or a red state, or a fiscally conservative state.
It still is, geographically speaking. I mean, if you look at it by landmass,
you mean like by landmass, but obviously population density in the metros is what
it's very blue, no doubt.
Right. But it's interesting because we saw it flip. I mean, Florida used to be a Democratic state, or a more more left leaning state. Mm-hmm. And now that thing has flipped, in one way. So
very blue. Yeah.
It was blue and now it's red, and it's like what is going
that's
right?
What I mean, yes. Mm-hmm.
Right. It's the exact opposite. And California did it. Yeah. So maybe it can change, but it's going to take a while to change that. And I think there's got to be a lot more pain. States, what is it? I mean, and it's not, California's teetering, Nevada's teetering, Colorado's teetering, New Mexico, Arkansas, Missouri, Tennessee, Ohio, New York, Vermont. And states that are already actively in recession now, or Oregon, Washington, no surprise there. Montana, Wyoming, Kansas, South Dakota, Minnesota, Iowa, Illinois, no shock there. Mississippi, Georgia, those states never really ever have recovered since post-Civil War era. They've kind of always been down there. Louisiana, though, surprisingly, is not. Louisiana is on the so states that are growing: Idaho, Utah, Arizona, no doubt about that. Texas, Oklahoma, Nebraska, North Dakota, Wisconsin, Indiana, Kentucky, Alabama, Florida, South Carolina, North Carolina, Pennsylvania. Len, are you proud that I knew all those just by looking at the abbreviations and not actually even seeing the names underneath them?
That's impressive, man. That's impressive.
Let me ask you this question before we transition. Does that give the United States its strength and resilience? Is that one of the things? Because you have so many different economies coming together, whereas like a Germany or a France or a UK or whatever, or Spain, because a lot of those European countries are struggling right now financially or economically. Does that give the United States an edge a little bit, having resilience in that? I mean, it's under our federal, obviously, but you still have all those micro economic centers or micro, economies within those states. And even though California may be, teetering on recession, which is crazy, they have the most explosive still commerce base in that Silicon Valley, especially with the AI boom in 2025. It's like, how can they be broke? So.
Right. And that blows my mind, because the answer to your first question is, when you look at the United States and you look at how large it is and how you have all of these different economic centers. So like in California, you've got Silicon Valley and the tech boom, but you also have California is also considered the breadbasket of the United States. When you look at Kern County and all of those lush, fertile areas, there's a lot of agriculture that's grown there. And so then when you look at more of your southern states, you've got a lot of different industries that are completely different than the northern states. And so with all of
oil and
economic
gas
variations, when you look at the southern states like Texas, Oklahoma, and that area, a lot of oil money there. But then when you look more on the northern states, you still have more of your textiles and still the last vestiges of manufacturing. And then also in the middle, you've got a lot of farming and, large farm communities as well. So, because of all of that variation, I think that's what makes the United States economically viable, because we continue to export goods and services and all of those things. I mean, mostly goods. And then we also export services and entertainment and things like that. But California, there's no reason, given the huge economy it has, that it should be in a recession. It's just so many areas of mismanagement, quite frankly.
So speaking of, entertainment, obviously Hollywood once was entertainment. I mean, it's interesting to see how that has completely evaporated. And I would have never have thought that, that the entertainment industry would morph the way it has. I remember having a conversation with a really good friend of mine at the time. We were really close at this time, at the season of life. And he had a business. And his business was low voltage and custom hi-fi entertainment systems in houses. And he was installing one for me in my house. It was like 2008. And I remember we were putting a Blu-ray player in. You remember Blu-ray disc?
I remember, right? Blu-ray.
It's like, oh my God, Blu-ray disc is going to be the game changer, baby. Everything's going to change with Blu-ray, like it's done, right?
A blip on the radar.
Boom, right? It really was, right? And I remember him telling me at that time, he's like, dude, this isn't even going to be around anymore because everything's going to be streamed. And I went, you really think it's going that way, right? And he's like, yeah, I really think so. And I went, yeah, man, that's crazy to think. And to think that was 2008, right? I looked up a sign from like 1999, 2000 of Netflix's original webpage. It's so funny. Oh, we got to put that. It's so funny looking, right? It's crazy to see that, right? And to see that evolve and that change. And now to see Netflix is the juggernaut of the media world, right? Killing everybody. And now they won the bid, right, to buy Paramount. Not the TV stuff, but just Paramount.
The streaming.
Or sorry, not Paramount. Sorry, Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers, right? Not Paramount. They're fighting with Paramount because now Paramount came back with a bigger offer for 100. And that to me makes more sense. But then also the issue with that is that Paramount's offering more, but then that gives a lot of control to one specific family who owns a lot of media assets. And I don't know if that's really a big concern because they're legacy outlets, but Netflix wants to buy Warner, and there's media consolidation happening at a massive scale. Where are you at with seeing this right now? Do you think it's going to be Netflix or Paramount in the end? Who's going to be able to accept that or be even allowed? Because at this point, Warner Brothers already said yes to Netflix, but now Paramount throws this in there and the government's going to meddle with it because antitrust stuff. But where are you at with it?
Okay, so it's very interesting when you talk about Netflix, because Netflix was almost, they were asking to be bought by Blockbuster, right? Just imagine how history would have changed if Blockbuster would have purchased Netflix.
Wow.
But anyway, okay, so this is how I see things. Netflix is very much a data-driven company. They look at the amount of views, they look at how long a person views each movie, and they look at the types of movies individuals like, and they create these algorithms that stream to get me to watch it more often. Paramount is more of a legacy media company. And so the problem, what I see, I believe that Netflix is going to win out because they're the only company that really has, if you look at their revenues, they have some of the best revenues in the entire industry. One of the reasons why Warner Brothers went out of business is because they acquired a lot of debt when debt was at 0%. But then when debt went up to 5, 6, 7%, they can't stay viable. They can't stay profitable anymore. So they had to get rid of a lot of shows. And really what's happening right now, Chris, is you've got legacy media colliding with non-traditional media and this whole consolidation of culture, if you think about it, because culture is created based on what we see and what we see on TV, what we see people wearing, how they're talking, and all of these things. And so with Netflix, I believe that they're going to be the 800-pound gorilla that everybody's going to be scared of if they continue to consolidate. Because, you've got ESPN, you've got all of these large companies that are going to be consolidated in this purchase, because before, remember, the big acquisition was when AT&T and Warner Brothers got, in bed together, and they made that big, multi-billion-dollar deal. So I think at the end of the day, I think Netflix is going to end up winning. I don't think Paramount can compete just because they don't really have a firm connection on where media is going, because more and more people are watching and being entertained, but fewer and fewer people are watching your traditional linear TV style. And so because of that, I believe there will be a day where everything's going to be streamed, and it's all I don't think you're going to have where, this particular time, with the exception of news and sports. So the Olympics, football, basketball, soccer, and all of those things, because we want to see live events, but everything else we'll be able to stream. And I think legacy media is going to go out the window. So I think that trajectory aligns a lot more closely to Netflix. What are your thoughts?
Well, the cool thing and the bad thing is that everyone's a journalist and everyone has opinion today. They could be broadcast everywhere, us included. Right?
That's right.
So the town square is really still the town square. It's just gotten bigger, meaning everyone can go to the town square simultaneously, right? Imagine if we had everyone that had access and knew how to use streaming, like Zoom or Google Meet or any of these, and we just set up one meeting link and everyone got that knew how to use, got all on the same time and had there was 5 billion slots available. We'd crash the internet, right? We'd kill it. We'd destroy the infrastructure. But wouldn't that be something to see something like that happen, right? I mean, the thing about it is the thing about it is entertainment. I think entertainment is absolutely going to change. I mean, stuff is so on demand now, and what people want really is they want authentic, as close to authentic as possible. The closer they can get to it, that's what they want. Mm-hmm. And they want to feel that. They want to feel that original authenticity. And I think that's exactly what on-demand streaming media, stuff like this is giving us. And there's no way to fight that. There's just simply no way to fight it. Interestingly enough, they're paying so much money for this. And I don't even think it's going to be that big of a deal. I mean, if history always shows, it's if you're looking at it from an investment standpoint, I guess, the big acquisitions never end up being the big paydays. Or the big monumental shifts and changes, right? And in the world, it's usually the small, few million dollar acquisitions where somebody pays like a couple $100,000 or $1 million for something, and then all of a sudden, bam, right? It blows up. That's really the thing behind, the magic success. I don't think anything's going to happen. I think it's just going to become convoluted, just like Time Warner did, right? AOL, Time Warner, and then it's just going to have its sad, long, grotesque death of legacy. Just let it die, But the what is it? The Larry Ellison, the Ellison family, right? They own CBS or something, and if this happens, they might own CNN at the same time. So that's two, and the New York Times or something to that effect. But I don't think anybody really cares because I don't think anybody reads that stuff anyways or watches that stuff anyways anymore.
That's true.
So that's why it's like, why are they paying? Because that's Paramount's thing. Is like, oh, we'll buy Netflix doesn't want that stuff. They don't want the TV stuff, the legacy stuff. They don't want that. They want the streaming stuff. Paramount's like, oh, we'll take the garbage. And that ends up, if Paramount wins it and the government softball pitches it to Paramount, don't be surprised that Netflix buys Paramount a few years after.
And see, that's the problem because
the government is going to make the problem happen. Because Netflix is an innovator. Microsoft is look at this. Look at these killer companies that the government has always tried to attack. The government tried to kill Microsoft so many times. Look at this. Microsoft adapted. Microsoft changed the business models. Cool. And it ended up getting to become the behemoth that it is now today, regardless of all the stuff that they tried to do. So,
absolutely.
And banks, however, they have an interesting life. Banks get propped up by the government more than any other institution. The free market doesn't exist. So I don't want to get off into the weeds here, but yeah, it's good. If Paramount succeeds in this, and I think they'd be stupid for them to do it. It'd be death. It's death by 1,000 knives because they will be nobody wants to dig the grave afterwards.
That's right.
And they will dig the grave for legacy, the death of one of the largest legacy baskets of media conglomerates. They will have to they will have to be the hospice nurse, so to speak.
That's right.
And no one wants to do that. It takes a special person to go broke doing that emotionally, financially, physically, all of that stuff. So at any rate,
all of that stuff is so interesting to me. And I just think when we talk about what are different ways to capture people's attention, Netflix is the most dialed in. But what's interesting though is that news is always going to be news. If it bleeds, it leads. And so I think what ends up happening is news, like I mentioned before, news and sports will still be in high demand. And speaking of news, man, there's so many new developments that have been happening. The latest we talked before about the whole shooting at Brown. And did you know that the guy who did the killing also killed another professor over at MIT within that same time span?
Yeah, they were linked. And then you saw the one that happened just a couple days ago or yesterday in South Africa. There was another shooting in South Africa. So it's like, and then the Bondi Beach shooting, the Brown shooting, the MIT one's linked to the Brown shooting. It's almost like, most people, we don't have mass shootings or we don't have shootings outside the United States, but it's like you're starting to see a lot of this happen. And Australia has one of the strictest gun control zones. I haven't looked up South Africa yet. I just literally just seen it. And I'm like, whoa, like I don't know if Len knows this or not, but what, and again, I can't help but, I think the Bondi Beach shooting is being classified as a hate crime. Am I right?
I don't know all of the specific details just yet.
I think the problem though is what you're seeing is you're obviously it's the holidays too. I mean, I don't know if that people get a little weird, but you're starting to see, that frustration, the tension everywhere, and people are feeling it. And then of course This is so stupid. Like, and this is the so stupidest thing. No one, like, if you don't have enough to be pissed off about, over the weekend, the Department of Justice starts hiding files that it released previously for the Epstein stuff. Oh, we're gonna, and then they put out this horse shit of, oh, for the safety of something. It's always the safety crap.
It's you redact,
and it's like
117 pages.
Oh, dude, I'm like,
completely redacted.
And I'm sitting here and I'm going, Trump,
it's
please.
A joke. It's a
Trump,
joke.
please, for the love of God, you're my, I like, Trump, please, I'm rooting for you. And I'm in your camp like 90% still, like 80%, even though Len hates that. And I'm like, if I was an advisor,
he's taking L's, man.
because I can take a lot from people. You can too, Len. Wink, wink. You can take a lot. In a good way. In a good way. I'm thankful for it. But yeah. I'd have to come into the Oval Office and say, bro, I got some KFC, some McDonald's, and a 2-liter Coca-Cola. We're hashing this out right now, dude.
Right. No doubt.
And he'd say, well, Chris, this is what's going on in my brain. No, bro. Like, seriously, you can't play peekaboo with this shit because I'm one of the loyal guys in the base. And I'm like, bro, stop, dude. You're you're making it. And again, I have to say this with a little bit of ignorance because I don't know if it's that sinister of strategic or it's that good of strategy. Like, the strategy is so good that I can't see the reason why you would make this mistake. But it's like, and now Bondi, they're threatening to hold Bondi in contempt, which is bullshit anyways. I mean, the congressional contempts and all that thing. Oh, they're going to hold him in contempt. That's nothing anyways. There's no legs or teeth of that anyways. Mm-hmm. I'm more excited, by the way, about Elon Musk reaching $750 billion net worth over the weekend.
That's crazy. But
he's going to make it to $1 trillion before he even gets the pay package. And he's going to laugh his you-know-what off at all those people that, he needs the pay package. But you can't help but think about it this way. Look, Kevin O'Leary said it like a year ago, right before or maybe 9 months ago, before he shifted right back out of politics and back into business. He said, I've never seen a guy that has a signal that Elon Musk has. And all of a sudden, Elon goes, what you saw. What type of warm up time did he have from leaving politics to being back on fire? Because you can't say it wasn't. You can't say that it's not his signal being present as an executive and a CEO and his business concerns that are causing that net worth to climb. So what is it? Is it
just in the White
what was his warm up time?
Look, he was just in the White
90
House
days
in January. It's December, but he was out of the White House in March or April or something like that. Don't quote me on the specific time. I'm just conjecturing. But okay, so you look at probably 6 or 7 months, he's right back on it. And so, I want to go back. I have a question though, because you talked about just your frustration, and I definitely consider you as a person who's part of the Trump base. Do you think the Epstein files will be a pen in the coffin, or do you think it'll for the loyalty? Because how, as we talked offline, what JD Vance is up against is if Trump continues to have all of these fumbles, if you will, and he continues to lose credibility in his base, that's going to be very difficult for JD Vance because as the presumptive 2028 nominee, I don't know if I sent a couple of screenshots I took, and it said JD Vance is like 11%, of all the people who said that they looked for somebody in the 2028 elections. In that particular polling, I think it was something like 11% said that he would be the presumptive nominee, and he was the highest amongst the colleagues that he had. Did I send that to you or no?
I didn't get it, but while you look at that, let me answer the question because I don't want to forget, because I want to unpack. I don't want to lose it. I don't think it's going to be a linchpin or a nail in the coffin. What I think it's going to be, if they don't fix it and come straight out with it and just own it, is it's going to be a slow affliction. It's going to be a slow. I didn't see that. It's going to be a slow it's going to be a slow death of poison. It's going to be a slow fiction. It's going to slowly kill them. And the only thing I can tell you right now, and it's just my gut, is I'm sitting here and I'm looking at this and I'm going, it's making it way too easy for Ron DeSantis to come in. And here's why. Because Ron DeSantis is going to give you all the things you like about Trump, but he's going to give you all the things that you want, Len, which is the cool, the calm, the collected, the polished, the candor. You're going to get all that. And he is going to bring down that balance that you're not seeing right now. And I wouldn't be surprised if that base goes. It's kind of almost like, if you remember this because you're old enough to remember this, the Colin Powell moment when everyone saw Colin Powell speak at the Republican National Committee when Bush was running and went, oh my God, we got the wrong guy. We got the wrong guy. It should have been Colin Powell. If the Republican Party was not selfish and allowed Colin Powell to be the RNC nominee, game over, baby.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
But see, there's a difference though between wanting it and needing to do it, and he needed to do it. He was a Teddy Roosevelt. He was a guy that needed to get in there. That guy was like that guy right there, a Colin Powell presidency,
right experience.
Boom!
Credibility, trust.
There would have been no ego. Look, I love Obama, but Obama had too much ego, and that was his thing. He had too much of that ego, and Michelle didn't polish it off a little bit of him. I
want to jump in real quickly because you mentioned something about DeSantis. So
yes.
It said, anyone you'd like to see run for president in 2028. This was a poll. It was done by CNN, and it said Ron DeSantis 2%. It says Marco Rubio 4%, JD Vance 22%. I said 11%, and it had no one specific in mind 64%. That's on the Republican side.
That gives you an idea right now.
Now check this out. It's even worse for the Democratic side. On the Democratic side, it was 2% Buttigieg, 4% AOC. AOC, yeah. AOC. 5%,
What was her number?
4%.
Okay.
And then 5% Kamala Harris, 11% Gavin Newsom, and 64% no one specific in mind.
Here's interesting, Len.
AOC 11%.
AOC called out JD Vance and said she would whoop his you-know-what, and she's getting 4% in her own base, and JD gets 20% plus in his base? Bro, get out of here with that crap,
Math
dude.
is not mathing.
The math is not mathing anymore. I can't even believe that Kamala Harris beats AOC, but I can. I can. You know why?
She was the nominee before.
Right. She still got
the fact that she's only 5% and she was the nominee is very, very telling as well. Right? Do you think about that? Yeah. A person who garnered 70 million votes, and yet you're only 5% of the one who's saying, okay, in the future, we want you to be that person. The top person's at 11%. Democratic
and Party, it's not even her.
Cooked. Exactly. Yeah.
So I don't know. I think this opens the door for I know he's polling low on that on 2. I'm shocked. I am so shocked. Maybe it's because I'm libertarian leaning and Ron DeSantis is. I don't know. I'm very shocked that Ron DeSantis is not higher on that thing. I'm not surprised with JD Vance because JD Vance, I think he's young, he's sharp, and he gets across the young voters. So I'd be interesting to poll those two guys, the two tops, and on both, you know what I mean? Cross poll those guys.
Yes, I agree.
And see how they
gotten
poll.
a bump because of the whole Turning Point USA, because
he was on there
got
recently.
An endorsement. He also got Erica Kirk's endorsement too. So who knows what degree that carried weight.
He handled it real well. I don't know if you saw it. He was just there. He handled the speeches and his his engagements with the TPUSA crowd at the convention, over the weekend and everything, very, very well. He handled that very well. MAGA defending the base, all that stuff. So, look,
he's
JD
smart,
Vance,
he's well spoken. He can.
JD Vance could win it. He could win it. He could win it. He could win it.
I just don't think people trust him. That's the thing. I just don't, because that's my issue right now. And again, send me whatever you have. I'm willing to give the guy a shot to at least listen to him in long form, discuss policy.
I'm torn between JD Vance and DeSantis. I'm torn between those two. I just don't know who yet. I just don't know. Yeah. I don't know who I want to favor yet, and I don't know if either of them would be a VP for each other.
Mm-hmm. No, there's no way. You're not getting both of those on the same ticket. That's just not going to happen.
So do you need a balance? You need a balance then? But see, I don't know. It's weird. The
weird. Vice presidential nominee, it's just like, okay, I don't know to what degree you follow sports, but you can't have a superstar as your backup quarterback. That's just not how it works.
No.
Because then if your star quarterback starts to have challenges, then the crowd's going to call for the backup. And then it just creates turmoil in the locker room, turmoil in your fan base. It's just not good. So the presumptive presidential nominee has to be a charismatic alpha. And then the presumptive vice presidential nominee needs to be a beta, needs to be a second in command. Because think about it, if you look at
neither of them are beta, neither of them.
No, neither of them. And there's not too many VPs that successfully became presidents. You don't see it that often. Most of them just kind of fade.
Joe Biden did it.
Yeah, but he wasn't considered successful.
That came from you. They are sending the DNC to your house right now. They're coming for you right now.
Hey. And they're coming to the wrong house, man. I'm not a Democrat, so.
Hey, speaking of DC, what is going on? Because we've talked about this, and DC crime statistics are up in the air now because they could be fake. As she retired, such a fiery, emotional speech she gave, her exit speech. That wasn't an exit speech. That was her defending herself. Right? And she had to go so flary with it. I don't know if you watched it. I watched it yesterday. It was embarrassment. An embarrassment. She gets caught with a toxic work environment. Yet alone that's not even the biggest problem. She faking the statistics by telling her chain of command to debase the criminal rating of crimes committed in DC. And if you didn't, she ran it like Lucy Liu did in Kill Bill. You remember that scene? I don't know if you ever watched Kill Bill, but she's a samurai leader, and she gets up and chops that dude's head off and goes, BAM! Now we know why people get killed in DC, but they don't get killed in DC. On paper, they don't get killed in DC, but in the streets, they get killed.
Well, Len. My guess, I don't know how specifically she sparsed the crime statistics. I don't think she's going to say that someone.
We'll never know, just like Epstein. We'll never know, just like Epstein files. We'll never know the breadth.
There's going to be an investigation, though, so we may in fact know. Okay, so here's the issue that I have with that whole situation. When you have a member of an entity that is supposed to be trusted by the citizens, and you violate that trust on something as sacred as that, if she's responsible for that, because right now it's an allegation. Now, and if you were to ask me and put a gun to my head and say, oh, do you think she was guilty or not? I'm probably leaning to the fact that she was more likely to have done it than not, just because of all of the different people that came forward and say, yeah, there was a very high pressure situation for me to fudge the numbers here and there. And it wasn't by one person, allegedly. It was allegedly by a lot of people internally. So when you have a person who is supposed to be a public figure trusted by the citizens, and you misrepresent information as important as crime statistics, you potentially impact the lives and the livelihoods of people who live within those locations. Because yes, you may invite more people to come and visit because they think it's safe. But then if you've got more crime than what's being reported, people that come aren't exercising the level of vigilance they need to. I'd rather know there's a danger that's present than believe there's no danger and it actually exists. Because, when I go to places throughout the world that have higher rates of crime, I make sure the way I dress, is not flashy. I have my money in my front pocket or, in a close proximity that's, close to my person. I know the people that I'm around, that they're safe and that, I know all the exits and all of those things. Like I put myself in a position to be aware that these things do happen. And so if I go and I'm like, oh, there's no crime here, or the crime is down significantly because they're doing such a bang up job, I'm not going to be as vigilant. And imagine somebody who comes and they don't think strategically like I do as a provider and a protector, then they put themselves in danger. And when you do something that's politically motivated, or that goes against someone in which you disagree, because I think part of it was to make herself look good. And also the other part was to make Trump look bad. And both of those are the wrong motivations to take information and fudge it and lie about it because of the serious nature of it. Like there's other crimes and other lies that people say that don't necessarily directly impact the citizenry, like paper trails on, bank statements. That's not going to impact me, but crime statistics and lying about that could get my family killed. And so I really have an issue, on so many different levels about what she allegedly did. Now, obviously, you're innocent until proven guilty, but we're not dumb, right? So I'm going to reframe judgment to, just to pound on her. But if what she said is true, it's not a good look, man. It's not a good look at all.
Here's what I'm beginning to realize right now. I'm beginning to realize that the people that we are believing in are giving you and I too many gotchas. Do you understand what I mean by that?
Absolutely.
And what I mean by
Epstein files we talked about, all these different fake news and stuff like that.
I'm behind Trump, and yet he's giving you so many gotchas to come at me, and you're behind. You're. I'm not saying you're behind, but you're trusting that in that system, wherever, and now they're giving me gotchas for you, and it's like, obviously you and I don't care about it as far as we're not mad at each other. We're not going to have resentment towards each other because we're able to understand and articulate the fact that, there's no emotional attachment. Hey man, your guy sucks. Yeah, well, you know what? Your guy sucks too. Well, you know what? Hopefully they stop sucking so that we can start doing better and not having to have to come work harder. Not because we have to work harder, but work harder because we have to get around all the sucky shit that they do. And that's one of them.
The lies they put out there.
The lies. And that's one of them. Because, again, because those crime stats are faked, we don't have an accurate understanding of why the budget has to be so high. Because we would understand the crime stats low. Why do we need to spend more money here? It's exactly what's happening in the education system, specifically California. We spend more money per kid, but yet we have shittier outcomes. How does that work? Those people are in the same exact boat. And whether they have evidence on them or not, which they don't, clearly there's enough evidence on both a state, or not state, but local level and a congressional level and a federal level, whatever the two places that investigated the DC police chief, right? Mm-hmm. There's enough evidence there to prompt that and for her to resign very quickly. I want to spend more time with my kids and my family, right? But I'm not saying that there is the same exact thing, but it casts the same type of light on the wine gardens of the world. I'm pronouncing her name wrong, but the secretary of, or what, not secretary, but the teachers union president, that lady who's wacky tobacco all the time, right?
Yeah.
It sheds the same type of thing, because if you're so ultra realistic and you're so smart and you're doing such a good job, why the numbers in such a shitter then?
Mm-hmm. No doubt. No doubt.
And then that leaves people that are less informed than maybe, people who are more informed to go, oh, see those other countries, they have such a better education system. They should just do it more like them instead of the way we do it in America. Wrong. It's not an American problem. It's these bureaucrats that are acting like the other people in these countries called monarchs and aristocrats. That's the problem. The problem is that people in America today, even myself included, need to pick up some more books and read some more, specifically history. Because then we probably maybe have more empathy and understanding of what's going on right now and going, holy crap. Mm-hmm. But see, we're so distracted with our TikTok feed and our Instagram feed and all this other stuff and climate change, and it's so expensive, and this person's going to war and this religious war. And can you believe they said that, rather than going, can I just pray for some peace right now to think about the things that matter most to me, that are going to reflect my life or the place I live, and just go for a walk?
Mm-hmm. And so as we wrap up this year and as we wrap up this show, we just want you to know that we appreciate every single one of you out there. And we hope that by watching our show, that you're a little bit smarter now than you were a few minutes ago. And I hope that you understand the value of always acquiring new information and processing that information critically and then sharing that. So with that, share, subscribe, comment. We definitely want to hear from you. And we hope that all is phenomenal closing out this year and starting out Q1 next year. So Chris, man, every time I have a blast with you, I always learn just by listening to you. Even though I don't always agree with you, I always get value from what you say. So it's always great. It's always a pleasure.
Likewise. Merry Christmas, Len. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Take care.
Conversation has given you clarity on your next steps. Please share this episode with someone who's walking the same path. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss future episodes. And remember, planning ahead isn't just prudent, it's an act of care. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time on The Family Office.